The views and opinions expressed on Black Talk Radio News belong to the host and guests and do not necessarily represent the views of the Black Talk Radio Network or the Black Talk Media Project. Scotty Reed here with a Black Talk Radio News commentary. On this particular segment, we will take a look at a news story that I have posted inside of btrcommunity.com, which is the social network for the Black Talk Radio Network. In this post, I'm talking about people playing identity politics, and I'll point out that white people basically have no choice but to play identity politics when most of the politicians, we could say probably 99% of U.S. politicians are white. So they then delve into other types of non-racial identity politics. But when it comes to non-white people, especially black people, I feel like a lot of the identity politics is rooted partly in low self-esteem, in the need for black people to be elevated in national politics, and that all that is required is their skin color, being black. And their politics don't matter so much. The things that they are offering to the people don't matter so much. What really, and of course, if they got a D behind their name, that's even more popular. And you will get lots of black people that will vote for that person without any regard to that person's background. So one of the black people in the Democratic Party that is getting a lot of attention, and particularly this woman, Kamala Harris, who is a senator out of California, who preceding her election to become a U.S. senator was the California Attorney General. And she has a very poor background when it comes to justice and when it comes to 13th Amendment style slavery and human trafficking, which is legal in the United States, and more on that in just a bit. So as you can see, this is an article from The Guardian. I wonder if The Guardian will be accused of meddling in U.S. politics like Russia Today, RT Today. Doesn't matter if they have Americans on that news station or news channel. Doesn't matter. Oh, the Russians running all these news stories to demonize Hillary Clinton and meddle in U.S. politics. So we never hear those type of things when foreign media covers U.S. politics. It's just ridiculous. But getting back to this story, let's pull up this story from The Guardian. Says that Kamala Harris, young black female in the Democrats' best bet for 2020 with a question mark. This was written by a white person at The Guardian, a white woman by the name of Louis Beckett. I guess she is based in Washington, D.C., although she's writing for a foreign paper. Now, a couple of things stood out to me from this article, other than the continuing hype of her to run for president or to be the Democratic nominee for president in 2020. One of the things that stuck out to me is within the first couple of paragraphs. Let me just read it. Kamala Harris, California's new senator, earlier this month made a visit to Chowchilla State Prison, often described as the largest women's prison in the world. Harris, only the second black woman to have been elected to the Senate, toured the facility and sat down to talk with inmates. She later called them extraordinary and praised their optimism about finding a new life after prison. But the moment she dwelled on most was a visit to the silk screening room where the women were manufacturing American flags. So here is another reason for Colin Kaepernick or anybody else to not salute the flag, to not stand for the national anthem when slavery has never been abolished by the United States. And that is made plain and clear for you in the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which says that slavery and involuntary servitude shall be abolished except for as punishment for crime where a person has been duly convicted. And we know that the criminal justice system is not one of justice, but one of injustice. that is very flawed, some would say by design, but a system is only going to be as good as its parts that make up the parts. So if you have racists sitting in as the judge, if you have racist prosecutors, if you have racist jury members, the chances are most likely that you're going to have racist outcomes, in which there has been much documentation about the disparities in sentencing and even arrests in the United States, especially as it pertains to the drug war. But one of the things that we point out on a weekly basis on the Black Talk Radio New Abolitionist radio program is that slavery was never abolished, and that you have prisoners making all kind of products in the United States, providing all kind of services for the United States, to the point that the United States has the largest prison population on the face of the planet. So it's not surprising that the world's largest women's prison would be in California. I'm assuming that Chowchilla State Prison is in California. So we have prisoners who are providing goods and services in modern day slavery and human trafficking. Many of these people shouldn't even be there. And the way that the system is set up, it is set up that once you get that felony label status, that second class citizen status, because they do not get their rights fully restored depending upon what state they are in after they get out of prison. And there is a lot of discrimination against felons, or add in the fact that you may be a black woman, and you got a double strike against you right there. Now, Kamala Harris has said nothing about the fact she's praising their optimism about finding a new life after prison. Again, that's highly unlikely. Of course, they'll find a new life, but their opportunities will be severely cut as compared to before they went into prison. But as I continue to read this article, it's talking about, she says, isn't it part of who we are in America that we believe in second chances? Well, I would say the statistics say no. If you're talking about felony hiring, I would say no. No, they don't believe in second chances, and they still believe in exploiting labor. And exploiting that labor through the modern form of slavery and human trafficking, and that's through the prisons. So let me just scroll down a little bit in the article. It talks a lot about the Ku Klux Klan, Donald Trump, and, I guess Kamala Harris would be the perfect answer for the Democrats to unseat Donald Trump. She's a woman and she's black. And, it also talks about how wherever she goes, we got all these little black girls want to take selfies with her. She's praised. And again, I'm saying that this is simply because she's a black woman. It has nothing to do with her politics. Now, she has tweaked her message a little bit since leaving the job as the Attorney General of California. But this article does talk about when she was a prosecutor, and that's what her background is. Her background is putting people into 21st century slavery and human trafficking and not getting them out. So it just boggles my mind that all of a sudden these people who are responsible for the United States having the world's largest prison slave population then want to act like they can reform it, or they have the answers and what have you. But it talked about how, as a county prosecutor, where she was prosecuting the parents of children who would skip school under truancy. Now, nobody can control their children 24/7, especially when they get to become adolescents, teenagers, and what have you. If you send that child to school, if you watch them get on the bus, but after they get off the bus, they go to the parking lot to a student with a car, or walk off campus and catch the bus to go somewhere and play hooky from school. Kamala Harris' solution to that was to put the parents in jail. All right. Now, she also talks about in this article about the bail system needing reform. Again, these are issues we discuss on New Abolitionist Radio every week on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And the United States may be the only country, it may be, I don't want to say the only country because I can't remember exactly, but there's only like 2 or 3 countries that still have a bail system, and the international community has condemned the bail system and says it violates people's human rights. And certainly, you know, it violates people's rights here in the United States, or supposed rights, I should say, that, hey, if you don't have enough money, you're guilty until proven innocent, because we're going to throw you in jail. You may lose your job. You may lose, you know, your apartment or your home, or you may even lose your children. And so, you know, the United States is one of those countries that require bail that poor people often can't pay. They can't pay, or they had to go to a bail bondsman where they had to go get grandma to put her deed up for her house or for her property so you can get out of jail. So that's a problem in the United States. And she's talking about reforming that. How about abolishing that? It's all part of the modern day system of slavery and human trafficking legalized by the 13th Amendment. But the most egregious thing I would like to point out to people is that Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, had her office trying to stop letting go prisoners. The Supreme Court ruled that California was violating constitutional rights with overcrowded conditions in its prisons. And so in order to argue against reducing the prison population, like letting elderly people with low percentages of recidivism rates out, or nonviolent so-called drug offenders, instead of letting them out of prison, they argued, this was Kamala Harris's office, argued that if California lets all these prisoners go, we will deplete our cheap labor pool. Don't believe me, I would always post my links and sources. I try to remember to post my links and my sources in the comment section, but you can certainly use the World Wide Web to research this stuff for yourself. But that was an argument that her office made. Now, after that argument came out and people was pointed out, she tried to change it up and say, hey, I didn't know they was going to say that. Look, she was the Attorney General. These are people working for her. You're not going to tell me they didn't strategize about what their argument was going to be at the Supreme Court. They went in practicing. So then she tried to say, oh, I didn't know that they were going to say that, and, you know, that just sounds terrible. So her problem was with the messaging. Some of the work that California prisoners do, one was recently killed, I think that was last month, fighting fires in California. I think they get paid like $2 a day. This is slavery. This is involuntary servitude or coerced servitude. And when you're paying people slave wages, then definitely it's slavery. And I don't understand why a lot of people in the United States do not see this as a reason as to why many of them don't have jobs. Okay? I don't see this being a big issue with the labor union. I mean, you have prisoners who are running call centers, processing food, meat, produce, fish. I mean, just doing it all. And now we hear, you know, in this particular article at Chowchilla Prison, they are manufacturing American flags. American flags. Wow, give me a break. So America, the United States of America, has never abolished slavery. They're still practicing slavery. And Kamala Harris has policies rooted in slavery. She has a pattern and practice of practicing legalized slavery and throwing people in jail that don't need to be in jail. This is her history. But a lot of people will ignore this, particularly black people who we target with our media, because I feel like a low self-esteem. So, yeah, she got a degree. She has this professional background, and she's black. She looks like me. So let's support her based on that, and let's just simply ignore her role in the problems that are afflicting primarily the black community, but all communities that are in a certain socioeconomic status. All right, so this has been Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio news commentary and report. We want to remind you that you can find our home online at blacktalkradionetwork.com. Join our social media community, www.btrcommunity.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find us there. Do a search on Black Talk Radio or Black Talk Media. Of course, we're on Facebook, Black Talk Radio Network, and you can follow us on Twitter at Black Talk Radio. Please continue to support the production of independent black media. Make a donation to the U.S.-based nonprofit Black Talk Media Project. This has been Scotty Reed, and I'm out. Peace.